Okay, so we are continuing with the amazing teachings of Rebbe Nachman of Breslov, and we're learning the Sefer Sichot HaRan, and tonight we'll be doing chapters Kuf Tef, Kud Yud, and tonight's teaching is something very fascinating. It's in a certain sense, it's learning about the hard drive of us as human beings, and really how we function, and how the understanding of how we function can be used in our benefit. We can use this as like a life hack in order to make sure that we're living our best selves. And that is, I want to speak about the concept of language, the concept of self-talk, of the language that we use, and how language actually affects how we think. Or in other words, that we tend to think that our thoughts are our thoughts, and then we only use language as a form of expression. Like once we have a thought, then we want to express it. So when we're trying to express it, then we're looking for the right word. But the truth is that it's not so simple. I'll start with the Torah source, and that is that it says in the Torah that Vayomer Elokim Vayhior, that in order to create the world, so Hashem actually started with speech. Right? Or in other words, that in order to have a creation, so we couldn't have a creation without having a speech. You can't have a speech without having a language. You can't have a language without having letters and words. And so based on this, so the Sefer Yetzirah teaches us that letters, the Hebrew language, and the Hebrew letters have a koach of building. They have a koach of creation. And it's an interesting thing that somehow this got borrowed by secular culture and in the world of magicians. So they use the word abracadabra, and abracadabra literally can be read as evra kedabra. They're like I create as I speak, which is literally that speech is something that creates, and so whatever, I don't know what the demand of incantations or whatever, but it's certainly in the Torah. So there's certainly something to the fact that as we say something, so it actually creates, and that's the way Hashem created the world. And the Sefer Yetzirah says that a person is able to manipulate the Hebrew language, is able to manipulate the letters of the alphabet in order to create things. It says that you can actually like make a golem, you can make a sheep. The Gemara says that there's another life hack if you can't afford meat for Shabbos. So it says that the Amoraim, that they couldn't afford to buy meat, so they just created a calf, and they had it for their children every week. So so there's such a thing as creating through speech, and I think that like there's something that we like I've thought about when I was younger, that do we think in words? Like some people like said like I think in a certain language. Like some people that are bilingual. So like they grew up in one language, they had like the parents spoke to them in one language, and later in life they moved to a different country or they moved or whatever. And so they'll say that I still think in French, I still think in Russian, and so the question is that really a thing? Like meaning that do we think in words, or do we think abstractly without words, and once we have this abstract thought, then we turn it into words. Now, the fact that people say that I think in a certain language doesn't really answer this question, because it could be that they mean that the way that the mind works is the first they think abstractly, and then they translate it into their first language, and only afterwards they translate it into the second language. Like that's certainly possible, and certainly anybody who's new at a certain language, so it's natural that they're going to not be thinking in the second language originally, but it's a good question. It's a good question objectively. That do we think in language? Is it possible to think without language, or is in order to have thoughts, do we need the word to think of something? Now, there's a very interesting concept that George Orwell spoke about. There's a famous book called 1984. And that it was written in 1948 about the future of the world, and Big Brother was watching, and it was about communism, and the concept of taking away like freedom of the individual, and so it was about how this totalitarian government wanted to completely control the civilization, the population, and so one of the things that they developed was something called Newspeak. And Newspeak was a way of having the government would control the language, and what they would do is that every year they would have a council of the Newspeak, and that their job was to take away words from normal talk, from normal expression. And the purpose, as he claimed, of this concept of Newspeak was that in this government, in this futuristic kind of world, so they not only wanted to control what you did, they wanted to control what you thought. And so they made this thing, I forgot the exact word, of a thought crime, a mind crime, and that even to think about something, like I've heard about cults where they they punish people for thinking something, and so in this futuristic government, so they wanted to control your thoughts, and the way that they wanted to control your thoughts was by controlling the speech. So they took the word wrong out of the vocabulary, and it was just not good. And the idea was that if we could get the word wrong out of your mind, out of your language, then you wouldn't be able to think of doing something wrong. If you couldn't express a concept, then you couldn't think the concept. Okay, and this is a fascinating thing to think about. But not that George Orwell is a source for anything, but it's a very fascinating concept that perhaps this works together with the Zohar. That it's through speech that we create, that really speech is a very elementary, basic step in the process, that if we don't have the words to express something, then we actually can't think it. Okay? So that being said, that having language really affects our minds. This is also proven in psychology. There's a concept called linguistic relativity hypothesis. It's a very, very old idea that the language, that the details of a certain language that you have actually affects your cognitive abilities. And the two examples that they proved clinically were that one thing was about color perception. That in one language, I think Russian, so they use different words for light blue and dark blue. In Hebrew, by the way, it's the same thing, but the test was the original study was done with Russian, and so they have different words, and whereas opposed to English, that they just do blue. There's no different word for light blue and dark blue, and so it was proven that in cultures that the language has two different words, so it takes less time for the person to discern between the two different colors. Meaning, having a different word makes it that it's more natural, it's more automatic that you're going to discern between the two colors. Okay. Similarly, that there's an interesting thing that there's a community in Australia that every direction they don't use right and left, they don't use right left front back, that they always talk about north south east west. So, like they'll say, like I was at the beach like a week ago, and the lifeguard was saying, "Everybody go towards the south." I was like, "How am I supposed to know where south is?" like my son knew, but what?
It's left.
I understand, so in this place, there's people in Australia. So they'll never say go to the right. They'll only say could you like there's a bug on your northwest, and so like it's very interesting, and like so because that's the way they talk. So that's the way they perceive reality. That everything in life is based on because in their head that's their spatial perception. So that's the way they think. It's because they talk like that. So that's how they experience life. Okay. So this is very relevant for like I think this is a deeper meaning of something that I heard years ago from Rav Pinkus, that he was talking about the fact that in Lashon HaKodesh that we have lots of words for simcha. That we say by wedding, that Ashabara Sasa v'simcha, Ditza, Rina, Gila, v'chedva, and so we have lots of words for simcha. And so he compared this to the fact that apparently Eskimos have like 60 different words for snow. So because they're experts in snow, because their life is around snow. So like it's not just like it's like we would never think of just using the word food. Like obviously, like every food is its own thing. So the way that food is an integral part of our life, that it's wrong to just call everything just food. Could you give me? the blue food. And so that's the way they experience now, because their life is now. So like it's wrong to just call it just snow. There's like every snow has its own identity, its own personality. And so Rinkus was saying that because Jews are the experts on Simcha, so that's why Lashon HaKodesh has so many words for Simcha. So now, so with this thing of linguistics, the linguistics relativity. So I think that like the deeper meaning of this is that Lashon HaKodesh was built. It's not that because we're experts on Simcha that's why we developed these words. It's the opposite. It's because Hashem wanted us to be experts on Simcha. That's why He developed Lashon HaKodesh in a way that we're going to experience the nuances of every particular Simcha with its particular flavor. Because He wants us to be experts on Simcha. That's why He created all these different words.
Ramchal Hirsch actually says something almost exactly to this point in the introduction of Orwell, when he's saying that against intellectualism, using non-Jewish words to define Jewish concepts is a form of apikarsis, because you're not getting the full meaning, the full understanding of the Hebrew word. So you're taking away from the Hebrew word itself.
Okay, I hear that. So that's the basic thesis, that it's not that our thoughts use speech, but rather that speech creates our thoughts. So based on this, what?
It's just with you.
So this is, I want to share with you what Rebbe Nachman says, and then we'll see what the application is. So Rebbe Nachman writes as follows: Yadua shelimud hazohar mesugol ma'od ma'od. Okay, it's a known fact that learning Zohar is very powerful. That if you learn Zohar, so then it's going to cause you to want to learn Torah more. It's going to affect you. It affects the way you approach Torah learning in general. Right? Now, there's a joke that's I don't know, maybe it's not a joke, that somebody went to Rebbe Nachman and he said, Rabbi, I only have 20 minutes a day to learn Torah. What should I learn? And so he said, you should learn Musar. And then if you learn Musar, then you'll realize that you actually have more than 20 minutes a day. So Rebbe Nachman says that learn Zohar. Learn Zohar. If you learn Zohar, so it's going to have a positive effect on your neshama, and you're going to just want to learn more. Okay? And he explains why. That simply the words, the language of the Zohar, so that is what causes a person to come close to Hashem. That the way that the Zohar praises a person who's serving Hashem. That it says that how fortunate is a person, how awesome is a person, how holy is a person, how elevated is a person. The fact that it goes out of its way to really say how awesome a person is, how special a person is, how lucky a person is, that it's able to perform a certain mitzvah, it's able to be close to Hashem. The way that it talks about how unfortunate a person is on the opposite side. So the fact that the Zohar uses these words of description of how a person is when they are close to Hashem, or the opposite. So the words of the Zohar, so that affects how we begin to think about Judaism, about how meaning that how we describe something is going to affect how we relate to it. And so there's this famous saying: the people don't remember what you say; they just remember how it made you feel. So if the Zohar, when it's like any piece of information that you're giving over, so there's different ways to say it, and you can give it over as a dry piece of information, and you can give it without any motivation. You can give it with motivation of fear, which is going to cause a person anxiety, or as he promotes that what the Zohar does is that it uses a language of motivation, uses the language of that is so amazing, that is so awesome, that it just makes you want to connect, because connecting you to the value of this particular thing. So this idea that the language that we use in something, the language that we use to describe something, so it affects how we relate to it. This is something that's known in modern psychology as well. It's something that became popular in CBT, that about how a person can change the way they think, the way they feel about something, through the way that their self-talk. through the way that they speak to themselves. And so 3 examples that they talk about in CBT is that, first of all, that a person could, if something doesn't go well, so a person could say it's a disaster. It was just horrible. It was just the worst. And as opposed to saying that it wasn't exactly the way I planned, right? And the two are not exactly the same. That a person because usually things are not exactly the way that we planned. And if every time the things don't go exactly the way we planned, we're going to say it's a disaster, then our life is going to be full of disasters. I once read this interview of somebody who does like huge operations. He holds like a Shabbaton for like 100 people every single week, and somebody asked him like, what's the secret? What's your secret? And he said the secret is to keep your priorities. Like he put like that, like not to get frustrated when little things don't go the way you planned, because nothing is ever going to go the way you planned, and just like keep your mind on the big picture. Again, like the fact that it's okay if the things are going to go wrong. So if the moment that things don't go exactly how you planned, in your head you've already labeled it as a disaster, so then like it's over, and then like you could have gotten a 98 on this event, and instead you decided to give it a 0 because it didn't go how you planned. So it's not to call anything disasters. Now the other one is to generalize. And I mean, it's all about generalizing, but like different examples of generalizing is to say that I'm always such a fool. I'm always so stupid. I'm like you did something once, and to say that this is always the way I am, right? And like same thing with other people, not to think that other people are always this way, and to focus on the here and now, and not to give things. Not to think that the way that something is right now is necessarily a definition of it, and thirdly, to label yourself as a loser, like to label yourself as a failure. To like that I did something wrong, so just because I did something wrong doesn't mean that I am something wrong. And so the way that we talk, so it actually affects the way we think. Okay, and this is certainly true with the way we talk to ourselves. It's also true the way we talk to other people. And they say with parenting that B'ezras Hashem you should all have lots of examples to use this. That like never tell your kids that you're such a liar, you're so bad, you're such a bad kid, you're such a failure, you're so stupid. Like that, it's like all of these expressions are self-fulfilling prophecies. That like the way we talk, people are talk to us, that is the way we define ourselves, and it's the way. I mean, that probably the way it works is the way other people talk to us. That's the way we talk to ourselves. And then the way we talk to ourselves, that's the way we believe, that's the way we think. But because the way we speak affects the way we think. Okay, not the opposite. So this is true. This is true in many elements of life. I once read an interesting anecdote that there was a certain town where the kids in the town, where they would have groups on Shabbos afternoon, and they would like do Parsha, they would say Tehillim, I don't know, and so they noticed that there was a difference between the boys Tehillim group and the girls Tehillim group, and the boys Tehillim group, so they asked the boy, like, why do you go to Tehillim? And he says, because there's the best prizes. And he asked the girls, why do you go to the Tehillim group? And they said, because it's through our Tehillim that people are getting healed from their illnesses, and they're getting married, and they're getting children, and and so like it was a weird thing that how come all the boys are into the prizes and how come all the girls are into the, like, it has to be that like there's some good boys and some bad girls. Like, why is all the girls into such idealistic things and all the boys are into the candies? And so it turns out that it's all because of the recruiters. It's all because of the madrich. That the madrich and madrichot are when they were trying to get the kids, so how do you convince a kid to come? So it turns out that the boy Madrichim, when they were trying to convince the kids to come, they would go around and say, we have the best candies, we have the best prizes, you're anyway not doing anything with your afternoon. And with the girls, so the way that she would recruit is that because of your Tehillim, so people are being saved from missiles. Because of your Tehillim, people are having children. And it was mamish because that is how the influence, that the way that they talked, that affected, that created the way that they think, that they think. So, Similarly, the Gemara says that it's something very beautiful. It says about Yosef HaTzadik that the Shem Shemayim Shagar B'fiv, that he always talked about Hashem. That Hashem was always on his lips, and this is the source for all of the people that always say Im Yirtzeh Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Bezrat Hashem, and it's become like a source of ridicule. This is what happens after my daughter is in the seminary for a year. That now every other word is yirtzeh Hashem, but it's really based on something real. It's really based on that the fact that the more that Hashem is in your vocabulary, so it means that Hashem. It creates the fact that Hashem is on your mind. Like the way we talk is the way we think. So, we have to make sure that we're doing it in a normal way. We have to make sure that people don't think that we're trying to tell them that we're holier than them. But objectively, it's a real thing. Normal people also say Yirtzeh Hashem. Normal people also say I find it's an interesting thing that for people that grew up yeshivish, so Hashem is more meaningless, and God is more meaningful. And for people who grew up secular, so God is more meaningless and Hashem is more meaningful. So, but whatever it is, so to say something meaningful, but that it should be part of the way you speak, okay? And this is obviously true with the opposite. That in a lot of there's a lot of talk about being careful what culture we digest, the kind of music that we listen to, the kind of books that we read. Okay, so even though we know that this is not us. This is I'm not going to talk about this. I just happen to like the music. I happen to like the storyline. That if something is on a very low level, we talk about having a refined language, okay, like nivol peh. Like swearing, not having expletives in the way we speak. So it's like I spoke about this once. That if you think about all the expletive words, so it's all about two things. It's all about sex, or bathroom things, okay? Like excrement things. So what's up with this? It's two very secular, very anti-Jewish ideas. That the one is that we spoke about this a couple of weeks ago about how sexuality is supposed to be something private, and the Western culture wants, specifically liberal culture, wants sex to be something which is in the streets, which is part of in your face, and that's defined by the fact that FU is something that's the way people. It's part of everyday talk. That it's become just part of it. And every day it's as normal. It's as normal as saying table. Exactly. So and that's a different thing. And that's the thing about having excrement as part of how we speak is something which is actually based on the Torah. That the Torah talks about a certain idolatry called Baal Pa'or, that the idolatry of Baal Pa'or was using excrement. And so Rav Chaim explains that how they use excrement as a service of their idolatry. It's that the thing which is the most obscene thing that you could think, the most disgusting thing that you could imagine. So they're saying, I can do the most disgusting thing in front of everybody, and that there are no rules. It's the desire for complete chaos, complete anarchy. That there are not going to be any social norms holding you back from anything. I can do whatever the heck I want. So that bringing that into the norm, bring that into the way we speak. So that's the underlying psychology behind why secular culture wants our language, chas v'shalom, to be part of these expletives. It's absolutely trying to define the way we think, not just the way we speak. So this is true with, like, it's not just about words. It's true about themes. It's true the more that we love songs that have, like, really messed up themes in the narratives. Like, it's like with children, I don't know if it's such a big deal, because children don't really understand. But as adults, it absolutely makes a difference. As adults, we absolutely understand what we're saying, and even though we tell ourselves, "Yeah, I don't really believe in this. This goes against my values. This goes against my morals," but, like, the fact that it's part of what's ringing in our ears absolutely makes a difference in the way we experience the world. And the opposite is absolutely true. That the way that the more that we talk about Hashem, there's something in the month of Elul. There's a very powerful custom from the Baal Shem Tov that I hope you're doing, and if you're not doing, it's not too late to jump in. That to say 3 prakam of Tehillim a day. What I love about this custom is that it's really doable. 3 chapters of Tehillim a day is absolutely feasible. It takes about 2 minutes. And, like, a lot of, like, scholars are difficult. Like Rebbe Nachman talks about doing his bodetos for an hour a day, and this is like even in Tehillim, so, like, they divide it into 30 days. It's a lot. It takes time, but there's nobody that can't do 3 prakam a day of Tehillim, and so there's something beautiful about just, like, saying these words, like having these holy ideas and holy thoughts and holy desires just go through your lips, like talking holy words affects the way that you perceive the universe. It's a very transforming experiment. It's a very transforming experience. That the fact that we talk like this absolutely changes the way that we experience life. Okay, so this is what I think. This is what I think that Rebbe Nachman is speaking about when he talks about the fact that learning Zohar, so it changes the way you think. So I think that this is really what he means. He means that he's talking about this idea that the language creates thoughts. Now he takes this a step further. Hashem kiddush kol kach as lashon targum at she'afilu shar dvarim hanichtavim b'lashon targum yesh lahem koach la'orer laHashem yisbarach. That Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai, he sanctified the Aramaic language to such a degree that the language itself became holy. Okay, so it goes without saying that if this is true about Aramaic, then of course Hebrew is something which is objectively holy. If, like, the reason why it's called Lashon HaKodesh, because it's the holy language. Like his Chiddush is that Aramaic is also a holy language, but it goes without saying that Lashon HaKodesh, that Hebrew itself is Lashon HaKodesh, and so this is something that we should appreciate, as living in Israel and in our trials to learn Hebrew and perfect our Hebrew. So we should appreciate the fact that it's not just a practical thing of how to get on in society, that it's something holy. In Rav Kook, when he was studying in yeshiva, when he was in Volozhin yeshiva, so he would I think, I don't remember if it's him or somebody before him, he would say over, I think he also had something like this, but he said that Rav Chaim Volozhiner, the student of the Gaon, he had the custom that on Shabbos he would only speak Hebrew. That because Shabbos is so holy, so he felt that it wasn't appropriate to speak Yiddish, and on Shabbos he would only speak in Hebrew on Shabbos, and so we should appreciate the fact that we're speaking Hashem's language. We're speaking, and this is that it's a way of connecting, and this is something like we take it for granted. The fact that, like, it's a new thing that we speak it. Chaim Volozhiner was an anomaly that he would speak Hebrew. That they spoke Hebrew 400 years ago. Nobody spoke Hebrew 400 years ago. The fact that we are speaking Hebrew, this is the first time that this is happening in 3,000 years, 2,000 years, and it's amazing. We have to appreciate it. I mean, I don't even know if after the Second Temple, if during the Second Temple they were speaking Hebrew or they were speaking Aramaic. It could be they were speaking Aramaic even then. So like we're going back. The fact that we're speaking Hebrew now is we're going back to something which is so old, so ancient, so part of our original culture. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's mind-boggling that we're able to take this element of what it means to be Jews is that we're speaking Hashem's language, and so, what I think Rebbe Nachman means about this, about that the whole language has kedusha, the whole language can transform, is that there's something real about associations, and that even if you're talking if we think about, if we're conscious about the association, about the fact that Hebrew is called Lashon HaKodesh because it's Hashem's language, because Hashem created the world with this, because He wrote the Torah with this, So that is what helps us to appreciate it. That is what helps us to let the language affect the way we speak. Or in other words, that we said before about how Lashon HaKodesh has different words for Simcha. We spoke before about how talking about Hashem can affect the way you think. We talked before about how positive thinking affects the way you think. Now Rebbe Nachman is taking this step further. Even if there's nothing objective in the actual thing that you're thinking, in the actual linguistic element that you're using, but the mere fact that it's part of a language that does have such positive things, so that itself, the language itself, by means of association, can also transform you. So this is something that I think has numerous applications. First of all, I think that this is when it comes to Hebrew itself, I think there's something to be said about davening in Hebrew, that even people that they don't understand Hebrew. So there's a question I get literally all the time, that is it better to daven in English and understand what I'm saying, or is it better to daven in Hebrew and not understand what I'm saying? And so the answer is obviously going to be like personal. It's going to be case by case. But there is something to be said about the fact that when I'm speaking in Hebrew, I'm associating with thousands of years of praying to Hashem. I'm like, this is like that. I'm literally saying the words that my forefathers said, that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov said, that the Anshe Knesset Gedolah said, that Tanaim said, that Amoraim said, the Rishonim said, and then there's something awesome about mamish going in their footsteps in a very literal way. Okay? And it's simply by association, like being like them, that the language itself has these connotations and associations of the lifestyle that those prayers, we make associations and very. It's the way our mind works is very interesting. A person can have a certain smell, a certain sight, a certain there's the fact that we're using the same words. It can jog our memory, it can jog our subconscious memory of connecting to something which is very, very real and very, very powerful, and that's through this association of language. In a more broader sense, so there's something to be said, I think, for about the way that people dress. Like that, this really connects with what we were saying before about the culture, about expletives, etc. And there's something about dressing like a certain society that has certain values. So the dress itself has that connotation of the value. Meaning a person that's going to dress a certain way. So when they I had this, it was fascinating to me that there was a certain school that I teach at that it's not a Beis Yaakov school. It's not a yeshivish school. And so for Purim, before Purim, they have different different days. Like the one day is dress up like you're some movie character. One day is dress up like some one of the teachers. One is and one of the days was I don't remember exactly what the theme was, but there was 10 girls that dressed up like Beis Yaakov girls. Okay, and it was a Purim thing because they were not Beis Yaakov at all, or maybe some of them were they used to be Beis Yaakov girls, and I asked him and I asked him as a joke, does it make you feel all nice and sweet and pure? And he all told me that absolutely, that the just dressing, dressing like this, it brought them back to a certain mentality when everything was simple and everything was pure, and it affected the way that related to the world. It affected the way that he thought, and this is I was blown away. Like how a person dresses. So it absolutely affects the way that you associate with the world. So this is, I think, that this is like there was absolutely nothing holy about the Beis Yaakov uniform, and yet just by means of association, so it changed the way that they felt. And so this is what I think what I think Rebbe Nachman means when he says that the language itself of Aramaic, or we said that obviously by Hebrew, that the language itself has kedusha. It's because it brings with it this whole mindset, and it's simply that the association itself can affect us. Okay. Now the last thing, which I don't think objectively has a connection with the previous two teachings, but I would like to propose that it actually is somewhat connected. Rebbe Nachman says, "Yesh kama shtusim ubilbulim." There's different kinds of confusions and stupid thoughts. Hamizdabkim umischabrim b'hamayach, that connect to a person's brain. Ubefrat bilbul emuna, and specifically confusion about emuna. Al yedei hashena, that through sleep, nifradim mehamayach, that they disconnect from your brain, and to the point that sleep is actually very helpful for emunah. Okay, so anybody who loves to sleep, so stop. We talked about how language makes all the difference. So stop saying that you love sleeping. Start saying that you love emunah. Okay, so what is it? So what does this mean? So first of all, I want to say that Rebbe Nachman was correct neurologically. Okay, that sleep is a very healthy thing. Psychologically, it's very healthy.
Is there a number of hours?
I don't know. I think it's probably personal. It's probably based on your body.
How is that connected?
Right. Hold on. So first of all that there's something neurological that there's this. That the brain activates this lymphatic waste clearing system as we sleep. That specifically when we're dreaming, when we go into a deep level of sleep, so this is the most activated, and like apparently that during the day, so we remember everything, and everything comes into our brains, and the brain knows which things are toxic and which things are good, and during our sleep, so all of the toxic thoughts and all of the toxic memories, so it discards them. Okay, so that all of the things that mix us up, by meaning that a person that's like, why do I think this is relevant to the first conversation? That a person that has been poisoned by whatever society, by whatever language, by whatever bad speak they have been spoken to and spoken for however many years of their life, so now I'm just messed up because the way that I speak to myself is really, really messed up. It's really twisted. So I think that Rebbe Nachman is saying over here is a certain solution, is a certain way to deal with this. That Shena is a way of going to factory resets. Okay, that the Shena is a way that we have all of these toxic things that have been poisoning us for who knows how many years. So sleep is something that can actually help us. Meaning the first of all, it actually gets rid of the toxic things. Second of all, that during the sleep, so our prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of thinking logically and seeing things for what they are, so it's strengthened. Okay, and so a person that was just confused and just anxious about things and wasn't able to think straight, right? Sometimes like we know that the reason why we're so anxious is not logical, and we're still anxious and we're still not able to function. And so why is this? So it's because our prefrontal cortex is not working. So sleep actually strengthens the prefrontal cortex. And that's why so often, sometimes when we're just really freaking out, so like the best thing to do is simply to sleep. Okay, it's not just like sleeping is wonderful for your physical illnesses. It's also wonderful for your mental illnesses. Now, specifically in terms of the waste clearing system. So it's not only in terms of the memories. So there's actually a certain thing in your brain called beta amyloid that is actually this is what causes confusion in your brain, and in extreme cases this is the thing that causes Alzheimer's disease. And so sleep actually like cleanses the system of this particular thing. And so it's actually so this is like that I think is like the mashal of how sleep actually cleanses us from all of our confusions, all of those toxic things, all of the way that we've been messing ourselves up for who knows how many years, and so obviously like it's not enough to go to sleep. It's not enough to go to sleep, and we need to know that sleeping is an avodah. That sleeping is something that should be respected, something that it should be dealt with seriously, and there's this is one of the most amazing things about Kriya Shema Lamita. That saying Shema before we go to sleep. So it's Rav Pinkus once said that it's an awesome investment. It's an awesome investment because like you say Shema for like literally 20 seconds, and it completely transforms the next 6, 7, 8 hours.
It's so long.
Okay, 4 hours, whatever. So
Shema Lamita is not 20 seconds, or am I saying the wrong thing?
I mean, I just like even if you just I thought you meant that 6 hours is too long.
No, that's not.
You could just say the first paragraph of Shema.
Oh.
If you just say the first paragraph of Shema, you're A++. And so if you just saying Shema before you go to sleep, so it changes, it transforms the next however long you're sleeping, and that it changes it from something which is just random to something which is a connection to Hashem. And so if we respect the fact that we need sleep, we respect the fact that we go to sleep at a normal hour, like people sometimes they mistake, they think that like I have problems getting up in the morning. You don't have any problem getting up in the morning. That you're completely normal in having trouble in getting up in the morning because you went to sleep at 4 in the morning. So the problem is not that you have trouble getting up in the morning. The problem is that you have trouble going to sleep at night. So like if we respect the fact that going to sleep is something holy, going to sleep is an avodah, going to sleep is something which is actually transforming us, is actually healing us, is actually cleansing us and purifying us. So it'll mamish make a difference, and this is not. And so first of all, he literally means sleep, but moreover, I think that there's also some like mini, like some. I'm also like I don't know mini. Like there's also that sleep is a general part of life. That sometimes a person needs a vacation. Sometimes a person mamish needs like a change in scenery and to get out, and like that because of like the rat race of life, like just really gets to us that like a lot of stress is literally toxic, and the like being around certain people is literally toxic for us, and like we just need to detach. We need to just go away, and sometimes it's not enough to just like go away to Gan Sakar. Sometimes like you need to go away a 3-hour drive. Sometimes you go a 1-hour drive, and whatever it is, like it's all just it's in our head. It's literally in our head. But like we need to feel like we're completely in a different world. Like the same way that sleep is a different world. So that's the way we need to get ourselves to this factory reset, to be able to detach ourselves from all the toxins that we've been absorbing for who knows how long. And so sometimes people can use a vacation for a week. Sometimes people can just have a beach day, and sometimes just get out. It's like whatever it is to get your head out of the situation of the stress. And this is a rebirth. And ultimately, this is really what Shabbos is supposed to be. Really, the purpose of Shabbos is to be able to have this time out, to be able that all of the stresses of life shouldn't be able to constantly be eating away at us. And this is a sleep that is mamish able to cleanse us and able to help us to be reborn, and the Gemara says the sleep is a 60th of death, and so like it sounds a little bit morbid, right? But on the other hand, that if we look at it to its natural conclusion, so that means that every time we wake up, it's a rebirth. Okay, and it's really the other side of the coin of the fact that we died every night is the fact that we came back to life every day, and this is really the healthy way, the Newspeak way of looking at this little death as the fact that every sleep is a way of starting again, of cleansing ourselves from all of the poisons and all of the toxicity that we've been absorbing for who knows how long. So I bless us all that we should be able to take control of our linguistics and take control of how we talk about life, how we talk about situations, and make sure that we are causing ourselves to think in proper patterns, in patterns which are effective, patterns which are building us, patterns which are bringing us closer to our goals, and that we should be conscious of the fact that if we have been contaminated by these negativities of these toxic things, so to know that we have Shena, that to know that we can always restart and always refresh ourselves b'zat Hashem. L'chaim.